Hello and welcome to the DCG's development update. We are here with the platform, the core, and the mobile teams to give you a quick update of what happened in the past 4 weeks. Happy New Year, everyone. Let me start my screen share. And if you can see my screen, can you?
Yes, we can.
Wonderful. Without further ado, Sam, let's start with the platform.
Yes, I will. Just posting a link in our general on Discord so we get more people to come. Okay, so this we haven't done this for about, well, we skipped the one 2 weeks ago because it was on Christmas Day. I hope everybody had a wonderful holiday and is ready for the best year ever. 2025, quarter of a century since the millennia. Boy, I feel old. I feel very, very old. Anyways, tokens and all the work that we've done over the last month keeps us young. So let's start. I worked on tokens. Oh, wait, no, I'm not. I worked on tokens a lot, a lot. Tokens currently is around 46,000 lines. Lukasz and Ivan worked on the SDK. And Ivan also worked on Dashmate a little bit. Paul's been working on the Dash Evo tool. Odysseus has been working on StateSync, and Evgeny, Odysseus, and myself have been working on GroveDB. So, we have a new GroveDB version coming out in not too long. Okay, let's start with TenderDash. Lukasz?
Hi. So basically, during the last few weeks, I worked on two main topics. First one was TenderDash, but only after releasing 1.4 last month, I just did some improvements in terms of dependency updates, and we also added a new form type to TenderDash. I will tell about that more in the future slides. So for TenderDash, not too much work. And for redesign of SDK, I worked hard with Ivan, who is not here today, unfortunately. But I will just refer my stuff and what Ivan did in the last few weeks. So first of all, we did start with collecting some requirements, which was done a few weeks ago. And based on that, we started our design work. So we are thinking how to make SDK or how to refactor SDK in a way that it will be even simpler and easier to learn for external developers who are not so familiar with Dash ecosystem as we are. And we stopped that work in some point, just to ensure that this work makes sense. And the concern we got was that the JavaScript client built on top of SDK might have some issues. So we decided to create a POC first before we go forward with that SDK API design work to ensure that these issues are not serious. And on the next slide, we can see that we defined three issues that can be important. First one is that our Rust SDK uses multiple crates, multiple dependencies that might not work well with WASM. So we had to validate this. This includes crates like Tokyo and Tonic. So asynchronous framework and transport method for transport of data between servers and clients in gRPC. So it's quite important part. Yeah.
Before you get in more, I think we need to tell people what POC even means and WASM.
Yeah, okay. So so what's the goal here? High level goal is to, so we have SDK in Rust and we want other technologies to use that SDK. And WASM is on the high level and simplifying stuff. WASM is a method for JavaScript developers and the whole like JavaScript family of technologies to use code that is written in Rust in this case, right? So what we are trying to do here is to let JavaScript developers use our SDK written in Rust. So sorry for that. I went too deep, right? So
And POC. I don't. I mean,
okay, POC is proof of concept. So the goal, I will get into that in a moment, but the goal is just to prove that it's possible. It's not to build the solution. It's to prove that the biggest obstacles or some theories that we have are possible to do at all, right? It's not a production ready code. That's definitely not what it is. It has like some code commented out, some placeholders put, some like hard coded items.
I
So
would
it's,
like to I would
yeah.
like to point out that your proof of concept code is probably better than 99% of code that other people write, but still.
No, but the
I
assumption
know.
here is that we want to move fast. We don't want to
Yeah,
solve
yeah,
everything. If we
yeah.
can just remove something from the scope of that POC, of that, we remove it.
Yeah,
For
exactly.
example, if we can hard code some quorum keys, we did that. We have hard coded list of quorum keys that work in the solution we show, right? And
Yeah.
that's it. The point is that it's just really like, let's move fast, let's break everything except what we want to prove, right? Or to demo.
We want to basically prove that the system works and that it's like,
So yeah, so 3 items that we identified. I will try to go on a more basis level. So first is that SDK uses external components that might not work in this solution, in this. So we will not be able to use it, right? So that was first issue to investigate and to verify. Second is what will be the size in terms of megabytes of data that users, for example, browser users, will need to download, right? If that size is too big, people will need to wait. If they have slow internet or metered internet connection, it will be a big issue, and it's usually not the only library that he needs to fetch. So we really need that size to be like on a manageable level. I don't have an actual number, but because it depends and it can be discussed in each use case, but we need to have the size needs to be reasonable. Let's say it like this, right? And of course, there are unknown unknowns, so other potential issues that can happen and that we don't know. So we thought that we should basically try it and see what happens. So we defined some scope of work. So we wanted to check how identity, data contract, and documents can be processed in the SDK in the browser. And we took them from DPP, extracted some code, again, as a proof of concept, we extracted some code from the DPP module, which is another development library that is provided even for JavaScript developers. I will get into DPP in a bit later. And then we tried to do operations on these objects. So fetch them from the server, from the blockchain, actually, right? So we send a request, we receive a response, we validate that this response is valid, that the signatures are correct, all the cryptography is correct, with some exceptions. And then we check if we can display that, right? And we also added some, let's say it, high level code trying to use state transitions and broadcasting. We didn't actually test it, but let's go to the next slide.
I would like to add one thing. Through when you fetch data through DAPI, there are two ways to fetch. Many people don't know this. There's the proved way and the non-proved way. The Rust SDK uses the proved way, and the older JavaScript way that we did uses the unproved way. And in this scope, we're doing it the proved way, right?
Yeah, I plan to tell about that on the next slide.
Sorry.
But
Oh,
no problem.
no. Oh,
Let's go.
no.
Okay, so basically, we have two WASM solutions. So two solutions dedicated for JavaScript ecosystem. First, the old one that exists for multiple months or years, I think right now, is WASM DPP, right? And it turned out to have like 32 megabytes before we started to look at that. After some optimizations, it came down to 11 megabytes. It's like 7 megabytes of binary code that is encoded into a JavaScript-friendly format, I think base64, and it comes up to 11 megabytes after this. So basically, right now, if someone uses that WASM DPP library, he needs to download 11 megabytes of data. It's quite much. And then we did some work to do SDK bindings. So the difference is that DPP, like my mental model of DPP is that it's the data model. It defines some objects like identity, data contract. Plus it has some logic, more or less complex, like serialization, like verification of various data. So that's what's in WASM DPP. And what is inside WASM SDK, it's basically WASM SDK and our Rust SDK right now allows you to create objects. These objects are on DPP, right? Are defined in DPP, but WASM SDK just allows you to create them, broadcast them to the platform, so that platform will save them. Let's simplify it to this level, right? And then fetch, download them. When you fetch an object, it's done inside a SSL connection, but it's not necessary because the response sent by the server is also secured with proofs. Proof basically is some cryptographic information that tells you that at this height of the chain, of the blockchain, this information was correct, right? So you get that proof, and you can parse this proof and ensure this information is valid and it comes from an existing blockchain and it's not tampered with. So basically, this is very strong security mechanism to ensure that data integrity is sustained. And this is quite complex process implemented inside SDK, and it's the main selling point of the SDK, right? Because all the other stuff can be more or less easily done in raw JavaScript, right? But this cryptography is much more complex. And basically, it has some other features, but I will not get into details here, right? But this is what we did and what works and what was tested. So we can download some information from the platform and verify the proof. So all that code can work in a browser, right? With many assumptions that I made before, like hard-coded keys and stuff like that. We also included in that binary, but we didn't test, some code to do state transitions, so modifications of the platform, just to ensure that the size that we will get is more or less accurate. It's what is in to do, and what wasn't included is like wallet related logic. And it's another big discussion I don't want to get into right now on how to implement this, because it's part of the design task that we will work on. And second thing that I already partially mentioned is the quorum keys. So to verify the proof that I mentioned before, we need some keys, some cryptographic keys that are managed by the Dash core, so the L1 layer. And in this POC, we didn't even touch that problem of getting these keys in a secure way. It's also another complicated or complex task. To do it correctly in a secure way, so that we can prove that the keys we use are valid, right? So first we need keys that are valid, that we need to prove these keys are valid, and then we use these keys to verify the proof of fetched documents or identity I mentioned earlier. I hope it's clear. Yeah.
It's actually the hardest problem that we have. The getting the deterministic masternode list and getting the quorum keys. So we, even in the JavaScript code that we currently have, we have that. I mean, I believe it worked. But the problem is that it takes multiple minutes to do. And you don't want to like come into your browser and then every single time like have to wait multiple minutes to get all the information and download it all and verify the quorum keys. I mean, basically, it's downloading block headers, core block headers, and then uh, there's a lot of like proof that you're on the right chain, that you have the right keys, and that everything is properly signed, and it just takes a while to do. And there's not much optimization that we can do in the current system. So, we have to, there are multiple approaches that we're going to investigate to try to fix this, but in the end, we want to be able to, have it in, less than 5 seconds, right? Even faster than that if possible. But right now, we most likely, we want something that external developers can use immediately. So, maybe for the first 6 months, using a trusted server that gives the quorum keys is fine, right? It's not decentralized, but external developers can use the WASM SDK, build contracts, and then, we'll have that feature when we're able to do it, right? We're obviously not able to do everything at the same time, but I do believe we will be able to solve this problem. It's just going to require some pretty advanced cryptography and building some systems around doing it. So
Yeah, so let's go to the next slide. And let me share my screen and show you very, very simplified demo of what we did. Okay, can you see my screen?
yep.
Okay, so basically this is very simple app that allows you to fetch some objects from the Dash platform. And here we have a platform explorer that lets us find some interesting objects. So what I like Coca-Cola, it's quite tasty drink. So let's take this identifier.
They didn't get that name, by the way.
It's platform explorer, basically. Top.
Oh, they did get the name?
Yes, I think they did.
I don't think so. I think it's a mistake in the.
Okay. No, out of scope. Discussion of this is out of scope of my demo.
Okay.
So basically, yeah, I've put this here and it clicked fetch and it fetched the identity. So it works, right? So it's proved that it works, and I'm not sure I can show that, but it's using the proofs. Even if I could show that, it wouldn't tell anyone anything. So basically, fetch identity works.
Yeah, so
And
this is basically using Grove DB verification, Grove DB proofs, like the all the, really complicated stuff that I would like to say some people thought would take a very, very long time to get working in browser.
yeah, I will also do it. I just for you, Sam, if you want to explain it in more details, I will show the logs.
Oh,
It's
excellent.
ugly, but yeah. So
Well, at least
basic,
some people won't believe it, right? So like, I mean, this is pretty impressive. I want to thank you and Yvonne for working so hard, especially around the Christmas and New Year to get this done.
yeah. So basically, here we send the identity request, right? The
Uh-huh.
first one, and this request is sent to the server. Then we get the response, and as
Yeah,
you
and you can
see,
see
it's just a
prove
few
true, right?
bytes.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it doesn't have actual data, it just have the proof,
Yeah.
epoch and growth
Well,
DB
I mean,
proof here.
the data is inside the proof.
Exactly, that's what I wanted to say. So data is inside, but then we need to parse this proof, right? And retrieve that data. So here we have that bytes. Inside the SDK, we retrieve data from these bytes. Here we can see that we do some some signature validation, right? Calculating bytes for validation, and just mentioning verify signature here, right? And checking some height. It's trace level, so sorry for mess on the screen, but yeah, and identity response received, validated, and that's it. And we get fetched identity. So signature verified and fetched identity with some object which is shown on the screen. Oh, it's too much mess. I don't want to get into details, but basically that's what was displayed above, right? This object.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't. It's messy and not something that anyone will understand. But basically, from logs, we see that the whole process worked. We got the proof in the response, right? These bytes, these numbers is just a proof. And then we got signature verification. So everything worked as expected. And
Excellent.
more, yeah, same for data contract below.
So, I mean,
So
the
yeah,
obvious question that people are going to ask is when SDK, right? And I think what we need to say is
we are
we're
not
gonna
working on this. It's not
no we,
something we can estimate. So next, let's go back to the
wait
presentation.
wait
Balazs,
wait.
it's on the slide, right?
I'm not asking you to say when SDK. I was going to answer that kind of myself.
Ah, okay.
Like next steps. Um, Basically, so now that we see that the system works and that it's not that big, right? He's using a WASM SDK right now, and he was able to do those operations with 3 MB, which we can maybe even get smaller. I mean, it's not really the focus right now. I mean, I think 3 MB is it's perfectly fine in 2025. Like on my internet, the difference
I
between
guess I guess we first make it smaller by optimizing that, and then it will grow back because we will add feature and it will be going in circles like this.
yeah, maybe. But the point is that we've kind of proved that the system works and we can see it working. Now, what do we need to do to have a good SDK? Well, we have to kind of have a good design phase where we figure out like how, you know, how thing how users would like to use the SDK, and then we have to build out the features. But we most likely, as I said, will release things iteratively. Like, as I said, getting the proof keys is extremely hard. Like these are the quorum keys that are needed that basically sign the proofs, and they're generated through core, and that's it's doable. It's just the problem is that it's takes so long. It takes a few minutes, right? Or right now it takes a few minutes. We could probably get that down in the current system to maybe like 30 seconds, but 30 seconds just isn't good enough. And we probably would never be able to go faster than that. So yeah, that part is way out, but we're gonna try to, you know, deliver things iteratively. Um, and I do feel like the first thing that we'll deliver that's an improvement over the current JavaScript uh, will be, if I say anything, Lucas is going to kill me, but I feel like we shouldn't wait for it in less than 2 months. I think it will probably be from 2 months to 3 months from now is we'll have, well, we'll be constantly pushing things, but before we actually ask people to use it, it will probably be like 2 months. Does that sound possible, Lucas?
I think the lawyers have that saying, it depends.
Yeah.
You know, we don't
It
have scope. That's why I said we are not working on
exactly.
SDK. We don't have scope closed, so we don't know what will be in the first version, so we don't know when we will release. So if we just want to release a very tiny thing to do one particular use case, right? One particular operation,
We
and
could do it
if it
even faster.
we can do it faster, right? But
Yeah.
still, users will not have, for example, the quorum keys that we already mentioned. So it will be a big issue. And for the quorum keys, like the upside, you can hard code some keys as we did for a proof of concept phase, but you cannot do it for production. And
Well,
so,
we can maybe do it with a big caveat, right? Like, oh, this library is, I mean, no, you can't do it in production, but we can maybe get like a centralized server that gives out the
yeah,
keys
exactly.
just for like, 3 months or something.
Yeah, you can get that. So, but it's not the centralized solution then, right? So basically, we don't know what's the scope, so we cannot
Mhm.
give any dates at all.
Yeah, yeah. I mean,
And we,
we also have to like kind of investigate with the people out there. Like, are people okay with like a centralized solution for 3 months where we just give out those keys? I think, I
I
mean,
don't think we should get into details here, but if we do something for 3 months, then people will start using it and it will stay forever. That's the risk.
no, I mean, it won't stay forever because we'll turn off our server. And we'll tell people to update the SDK, and then the decentralized one will come out, right?
All right. We
Anyways,
are
we're,
half an
we're
hour
going
in.
into yeah, we're going
Yeah.
into too much detail. The good news
Okay.
is we've made like crazy progress on the SDK, and what I'm going to try to do. So I'm going to talk more about to talk about tokens and other stuff that we're working on in this call. Um,
Yeah, I still
so,
need to report what Ivan did. He asked me to report
okay,
for him because he got sick. So,
yeah,
Balazs, if you
okay,
can go to
okay, you
next
can go
slides,
on.
I will go
I'll
quickly
talk
through
about it
that.
right after.
Yeah, so basically, Ivan, yeah,
But wait, I wanted to just give that the conclusion because now we're
okay,
going on
sorry.
to data. Yeah, so the thing is that once we get like actually not even we're not even going to wait till tokens are out, but we're going to have multiple talks over the next week on trying to figure out a way to get the most iterative SDK possible out into the developers' hands, basically. That's it.
Okay, let's go to next slide 10. Uh, so base, or can we go back to slide 9 for a second? Because one more conclusion we didn't mention is that basically looks like DPP is 11 megabytes and SDK itself is 3. So the conclusion here is that DPP is way too big to be included in the SDK. And we need also to figure out solution to this, right? Because the feedback we got from community is that like 10 megabytes or more is not good for their projects. So that's some other stuff we need to have in our minds that needs to be done. Okay, so that's why next steps is continue SDK design, and we need to decide what will be the size of the solution. Okay, in terms of what Ivan did, basically he worked very, very hard with me on that WASM topic, but on top of that, he also did some fixes like and features. An interesting feature for developers is a single node local network. So if you are developing, previous solution requires you to set up a network of at least 3 nodes to be able to use it locally. And it has impact on our CI/CD. It has impact on individual developers' workflows. So right now, he did together with core team and very small help from me in terms of Tender Dash, solution to have single node local network. It takes less resources and works faster in general. So it requires some new forum type on Dash core, required some Dashmate changes and Tender Dash changes, and it's in testing, but it's like not a priority for us at this point. Also, we removed some mock time from the network starting process, and because it basically was unreliable, and it turned out that this mock time is not needed for the local network. And so it was removed. And from other stuff that Ivan worked on was a fix for some the serialization of consensus errors, and because it wasn't the transmission of that information of error information was not working well. He and Ivan did add some base 64 encoding there, what fixed the issue. And also getting a bit back to the DPP, in version 1.8, the DPP size was decreased to, I think, 11 megabytes, so 3 times. Already mentioned on slide, but it's merged. That's the message here. So it will be in platform 1.8. And I think that's it on my side. Yeah, who will report on StateSync on Odi?
Yes. So hello guys. I'll try to be quick. So I have resumed my work on StateSync the past weeks, and basically the first and the biggest part of this of the leftovers is completed, which was
Explain what
the
StateSync is. Explain what
yes.
StateSync is.
Yes. So people, StateSync is the feature required to for when a new node is joining the network, instead of uh, replaying all the blocks in order to be synced with the rest of the network. We implemented StateSync, which allows a new node to fetch to replicate basically the GroveDB from different nodes in parallel and construct the same GroveDB into the target node, obviously deterministically and by using cryptographic proofs to verify data in order to avoid replaying all the blocks. So this is just to allow people to quickly catch up the chain, because I don't remember the numbers. You told me that, for example, if we had to replay all the mainnet blocks, how much time does it take now?
Takes like 6 hours. The point is that StateSync will take a few minutes compared to multiple
Yeah,
hours. So
yeah. So it's an optimization, let's say. But
Well,
anyway,
it's yeah. We
it's
we originally planned on releasing with this, right? But
yeah. And we decided to leave it for later, and the moment has come. Anyway, so I was working on that. I was close to finish it when we decided that we need to work on other parts before releasing and etc. So I resumed my work, and basically the first step was to perform several optimizations on GovDB part, because we initially with the first implementation version, we had it was really long, and we identified several places that we need to optimize. I will give some numbers later in the slide. So basically the first part was to the ability to open a specific subtree by providing a prefix. So prefix is the hash of the path, and that gives the ability on source nodes when fetching chunks to open directly the corresponding subtree. So in simple words, we helped source nodes to avoid opening in recursion all the trees in order to achieve the tree that needed to be fetched. And also on the target side, so on the writing side of things, we avoided any recursive subtrees discovery. So those were done. It was merged. As Sam said, a new GroveDB version will be released soon. We are at the second step, so we are working on the ABCIs that will handle all this state sync. So the writing operations will be conducted in the consensus ABC applications. So this is an existing app, and we created a new one which will be called for reading operations, so the fetching. And we have a working state sync strategy test, which basically creates a platform chain, generates some document insertions for several blocks, and then we add a new node, and we start making the state sync. And so this strategy test, on the initial version, it was taking like several hours. It was completely unacceptable and super slow. The second version, we dropped to 15 minutes, and the latest one is taking like a little bit more than 3 minutes. And also another good news is that from these 3 minutes, the writing, the total of writing operations are taking like a little bit less than 2 seconds. So all the remaining seconds is the fetching, which can be parallelized in the real world, because in this strategy test, it is done sequentially. So there is also another optimization possibility there. So we are pretty confident about the final numbers. And last but not least, Thunderdash needs to work on the integration with the above BCIs. So once this is complete and tested, I think I will present a more detailed description of the state sync on another YouTube presentation. Thanks for listening.
Thank you, Odi. Paul, are you here with us?
Hello. Yes, thank
Hello.
you. Yeah, hello everyone. Happy New Year. So I've been working on Dash Evo tool and we just released V0.7 today. Included in this release is a contracts document screen, which, I'm going to do a demo, so I will show you what that is. We can now broadcast decoded state transitions. So like you can take a uh, encoded state transition off of platformexplorer.com, paste it into Dash Evo tool. Well, actually, you wouldn't want to take it off platformexplorer.com because it's already in the chain, but you can take a state transition, just a raw state transition, and submit it through Dash Evo tool. It's helpful for developers. Um, yeah, I upgraded the vote scheduling stuff. So you can just look at all the active contests and you can shift click on all your vote choices and schedule the votes like all at once. It's like a lot faster. And I think it's what Sam originally intended for it to be. Uh, and a lot of people were mentioning they were running into this consensus error, like unable to deserialize consensus error, just for like various different things. And Yvonne fixed that in platform, and it's under review for the main development branch. But for the Dash Evo tool branch that we're using, we already have it in Dash Evo tool, and it's working well. So yeah, you won't be seeing those errors anymore. Those are the main things. There were some other minor fixes and stuff like the max withdrawal button and stuff like that. For V0.8, the plan is, well, the big plan is to add a screen for fungible tokens. And I also wanted to mention that we have kind of got the ball rolling with the like redesign of the UI and stuff. I have not talked to Sam about this, but I'm going to guess that the redesign will come with V1. Sam,
You are correct.
yeah, okay. Yeah, cool. So let me do a quick demo. I'll show you some, just I'll kind of, yeah, I'll show you what I'm talking about. Let me see. So here is Dash Evo tool, and here is the active contests. So I'm going to, this is testnet. I'm going to shift click on, for example, abstain votes. Say I want to do abstain vote for all three. I can shift click and like choose, I can choose that, unclick if you don't want to vote anything. And then up here you have a schedule votes button, and it shows you your choices, and then you can use, schedule for each node. Like right now I have these two master nodes, so you can choose to schedule a vote or to not vote at all. And you can see like these are all ending in 23 minutes. So if you just type like 5 minutes here, 10 minutes here, it will schedule this for 5 minutes from now and 10 minutes from now. Schedule all votes, go to scheduled votes screen, and here are the scheduled votes. They're pending, and as long as you have Dash Evo tool open, when this timer runs out, then these will cast automatically. What else? Okay.
That's really, I know there are some people that did not like that feature, but I love it because it, somebody who, if I'm not saying I do, but for anybody who has more than one Evo node, Keeping your anonymity is very hard, but with this feature, you can vote and you can keep your anonymity. I mean, excellent.
Yeah, I mean, that totally makes sense that some people would want that, especially like some of the bigger masternode owners. This is the contracts and documents screen. Right now I have only DPNS contract loaded, but here, let me grab another contract from Platform Explorer. 1 second. Sorry, I didn't plan so well. Okay, I got it. So I'm gonna go here and click Add Contracts, and I'll paste this identifier, and you can add more, you can do more than one. And I'll click Add Contract. So it's fetching the contract from platform now, but by its identifier.
No.
And there it is. We got it. Back to contracts. So we have two contracts here. You can see the document types and the indexes. And here you can do a SQL query. So if I click like pre-order, it'll change to pre-order domain. If you can do an index too, where records dot identity equals, and then you can put in an identifier there. Let's just do select all from domain, fetch documents. And yeah, we have all these documents, and it's paginated because there's a ton of documents on mainnet already. There's like 1,300, I think, about. So, and here you can filter, like if I want to look for Paul, yeah, we have one named Paul on this page. You'd have to filter each page or do a more specific query up here. And here you can select what properties you want to view and YAML or JSON. Yeah, and the last thing is this transaction deserializer. So you can post in here in a encoded state transition, and you can see it deserialized, and then here you can broadcast transition to platform. I don't think a lot of people will be using it. Just this took me like 5 minutes to make, but I think Shenmik needed it before, so this was helpful to
Yeah.
him, and hopefully
It
some
allowed us to figure out an error. So
cool. Yeah. So
that's great. Hey, can you go back to I just want to see if the query actually works. Put it on real-time usage. Go to
yeah,
like name and label. Yeah. And then like can you actually do that? Like I guess dash and then Paul. Is this Ooh, it didn't work. Wait, the
why didn't it
normalized
work?
label is Paul. No, you said normalized label, so it's like PAL. There you go. Got it.
Cool.
Well done.
Yeah, actually, I think that this where clause only works if there's indexes,
Yeah, exactly.
right? Okay. Yeah. Cool.
So this is
All right.
actually fetching directly from the system, and this is something that no other blockchain, as far as I know, has, right? So cool. My turn. Just 1 second, guys.
Yep.
Okay, so GroveDB. So I'm going to start by talking about the work that I'm doing in GroveDB. There are two big features that needed to happen there. The first is big sum trees. And the thing is that like tokens, right? So, let's take a token out there like yeah, Dodge. That's a most people know about Dodge. I think there are like 17 billion Dodge in existence, right? And I think it's encoded in the same way that we're encoding our tokens, probably on an I64 or U64. So because of sum trees are encoded on an I64, because we allow negative sum trees, the maximum token balance is of the sub items is that big number right there. It's like 9 point blah 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 kajillion, or it's a very, very big number. But when you use the decimal place, you get to something a little bit more manageable, like, for example, 92 billion max tokens, right? So that's, I think Dodge currently has 17 billion, and I mean, like, that would be more than enough for all tokens that exist out there, really. But the problem is when you're dealing with multiple tokens at the same time, we want an easy way to verify that all the tokens in the tree match the total amount of all the balances of all the users of the tokens. So we basically want a sum tree of a sum tree. Otherwise, we would have to verify on every block that everything matched for every single token, and that's a kind of expensive operation. So we kind of want to use this like new thing called a sum tree of a sum tree. And the problem is that if the sum trees are very big, the sum of sum trees need to be bigger, and that's why we need to create a new data structure called a big sum tree that doesn't use an I64 but uses an I128, just so it's bigger. Anyways, let's go to the next slide. It's very technical. Sorry about that, but basically, it's a problem that I'm working on solving. Yeah, so like if we have a token balance on one side of 9 of 10 to the power of 18, and a token balance for the whole amount of tokens, like the total supply, right? On the other of like 7 10 to the power of 18, the token balance is actually on I64, but the underlying sum tree node is using a 128, and then it is able to give the token balances of all the tokens in the system and then verify that amount. Quite complicated. Just saying that I'm working on it. Let's move on. Another feature that I'm doing at the same time, since I started touching GroveDB, is doing count trees. This is actually a problem that we have pretty heavily right now, that we have no way to know the exact number of elements in a tree without traversing the tree. So like we don't know how many pages there are. The only way for us to know how many pages there are on a query is to, well, do the query many times, and it's just not good. So we're going to introduce a count tree, and they're kind of like sum trees, but they don't add the internal amount. They just do a +1 for the sums of the left and the right subcounts. So let's go right to the next slide. Yeah, so for example, if you had like, a tree of cars, we can see that, each one has 1, and then you just add up the left and the right, and you go up the tree. So like gray car and red car, each one. Green car has 3 because it has 3 elements, the one below it and itself. And then as you go up, you get the max, the count amount. This actually works even though that when you do rotating, right? So if you were to rotate the AVL tree, you would still be able to sum the ones that are underneath, because as you rotate, you just rotate on a certain node. Never mind, too complicated. Let's move on. But it works. Yeah, rotating works, and we can basically get this count tree working properly. And that will be in the next version of GroveDB. The big issue there is that it won't automatically work in platform. So we're going to have to find a way to translate some of the trees that need counting from non-count trees to count trees, which will probably, not happen in the next version, but happen in the version after that. Okay, so now let's talk about a big item, fungible tokens. Yeah, no. So we already talked a little bit about this a month ago. I'm just going to go quickly about it. You register the tokens you want in the contract. Tokens can be sent between identities. They use sum trees, big sum trees. There's no inflationary bug. Okay, let's talk about the work that was accomplished and where we're at. Next slide. Yeah. So I'd already talked about the control, and I said you could the admins of a token can define, the initial supply, the max supply, token conventions, the default destination for new tokens, the minting rules, the burning rules, but there's actually more control now. Next slide. You can control if the token starts off as paused. So you could say like, this token starts off, but people can't transfer it for the first 100 blocks. Who knows? There might be some reasons, right? Maybe you want to push out the token, but you don't want it to be transferred because you're still working on it. Stuff like that. Freeze and unfreeze accounts. So these are features that I don't love, right? But that exist in many tokens out there. So, we have to basically add them. So, but what's cool about them is that you can control in your contract if the token can be frozen and unfrozen. So the users can see, okay, well, this token, allows the admins to freeze accounts. Okay, I don't like that token because of it. Or this token allows the admins to, burn frozen tokens. That's like, stable coins have those features, but maybe you don't like a stable coin, so you can see that, it's everything is public, right? But these are features that are required for stable coins, so they've been implemented. Can admins pause the token? And do tokens keep historical information? Yeah, and I think I already mentioned if minted coins have a default account holder. Queries. We implemented all these queries, the balances of the identities of a token, the balances of one identity for many tokens, the token info of the identities. So basically, is their account frozen or not frozen? And the pause state for many tokens. So like, is the token completely paused or not? Often, tokens are rarely paused. It's more of an emergency thing, but you still need to be able to query it. Okay. We also have querying of the historical info, like how much was minted, how much was burned, by who, what are the frozen accounts on the token, what transfers have happened, what emergency actions have happened. Basically, we have a data contract that keeps all of this historical info, and we have tons of queries on it that are possible. So, probably there's like 50 different queries combined now. All the state transitions have now been built. So minting, transfer, burn, freeze, unfreeze, frozen token, frostburn. I don't know. I like the word frostburn. stop, start, token transfers. Yeah, that's basically all the state transitions. So we have no more state transitions to do. So we're good on that state. We're good on that part. Okay, next. So I talked about groups last time. I left this slide in just to explain. Groups allow for multi-party control over an action, like if you want 2 of 3 admins to agree to mint new tokens. Yeah, so now, next slide. This has been built out. We're done there. We added the multi-sig capabilities to the system. It's also stateful multi-sig, so it's a lot easier for users. They can just say, I want this action. Then you can query what actions your group has in progress, and you can vote on doing those actions or not doing those actions. Groups are very powerful, and they've been implemented. So so like when the action of the state transition gets enough voting power from the group, it will execute. Yep, that's done. You can also do groups in such a way like, this one identity has the full power to do it, or you need these 5 identities to do it, right? You can do stuff like that. And then that one identity can just do the actions, but the other people need to do them in kind of like a cohorted way, right? Yeah, so it's stuff like that you can do. Identities can vote with an expiration date. Oh, yeah, you can also do in groups. For example, you can create a system where you have one like super admin, right? But you have tons of admins that basically can overthrow that admin if they want. You can build that out. You can do tons of cool stuff. One feature that I haven't written yet is identities can vote with an expiration date. Still to do. And I haven't done the query of active group actions, so still to do there. Yeah, so tokens, as you can see, are very close to completion. We have to finish out the GroveDB features. We have to implement the GroveDB features. And so I expect there's going to be about another week of development. Around the 15th or so, I think we're probably going to go to testnet. So about a week from now. And I'm really looking forward to having a lot of testers for tokens. This is the biggest change that we've done since release. The amount of code is very heavy. There's a new type of data contract. There's a new type of there's just quite a lot of stuff. So I'm really looking forward to having a lot of people test it out. Thanks, guys.
All right. Let's continue with the core team.
Right. Thank you, Balash. I promise I will be a lot quicker than Sam. V22 activated. This happened, I believe, yesterday, within the last 24 hours or so. We can see on this bottom right chart here, the credit pool balance, this is on MNO Watch, is a lot less spiky now. That is reflecting how the withdrawals are able to kind of continuously happen. So you won't see these big cuts out of the balance every time a batch of withdrawals happen, as withdrawals just happen as they get signed. So that's really cool. V22 activated, no issues, everything's going well. Super high level of some V22 stuff there. Basically, everyone's upgraded. If you haven't, you're probably hard forked off now, so you should really upgrade and get back on the right chain. We can move on to the next slide, though. So here's kind of the current stuff going on. One of the more interesting things, version 22.1, I'm planning on publishing a release candidate for that in the relatively near future. There's a couple more PRs that we want to get merged in for it. A couple of couple of small features that I want to get wrapped up for it. I expect within a couple of days we should have all of those PRs merged in, and then we're gonna have a release candidate for 22.1. The main things that are interesting in 22.1 is the version 2 P2P protocol is enabled by default. So P2P encryption, a more just efficient kind of P2P protocol, now enabled by default. We've been testing it on testnet. We've seen no issues. Everything's doing good there. The other significant ish change that will be coming to 22.1 is the macOS deliverable will very likely, well, it's been merged in now. It will be delivered as a zip instead of a DMG. This is something that Bitcoin did a while ago, but I didn't really want to kind of move away from DMG if I didn't have a good reason. But with version 22, there's some weird bug with macOS and our DMGs where they're mounting, but it's not as user friendly as it used to be. The DMG is kind of just silently mounting. Seems like there must be something weird in how the DMG is being constructed now, but the DMGs are very Apple specific. There's not a ton of resources, and we haven't been able to figure out why. So we figured we might as well kind of get rid of that, move over to a .zip. And so it'll be the same process as the DMG. You open it up, and then you copy the application to your applications folder. Very similar, process and user experience, but instead of compressed as a DMG, it'll be compressed as a zip. So that has been merged in now. Otherwise, there are some other kind of minor features and improvements, some performance improvements, some threading stuff. We are making progress on some C++20 and CMake. Kitty Whiskers had 3 or so PRs merged in on this topic recently. They're not yet C++20 adoption, but they're tool chain changes that we need in order to adopt C++20 fully. When it comes to the extensible addresses in DML, that dip is now, or that whether it's going to be a new dip or just a modification to existing dips is still up in the air, but that is in review. Additionally, proof of service banning, that dip is also in review. That is going to be dip 31. And then once we get that dip finalized, we'll start implementing on that. Constantine did work on single member reg test quorum. The platform team talked about that a little bit earlier, but helps provide a nice lightweight development environment. We also did some BLS optimizations. There's some stuff around global state and deglobalization that Constantine worked on. I've worked on some other optimizations with it, minimizing usage of stud vector and dynamic allocations. And we're seeing about a 10% improvement in serialization speed, which is actually quite valuable for the reindexing and sync speed. So I'm excited about that. A couple of issues I have to figure out there in 6515, but valuable changes there. So yeah, that was most of what I wanted to talk about on this slide. We can move to the next one here. This is real quick, just kind of the status of Bitcoin backports. Decided to move this screenshot into its own slide just to not have the previous one be so cluttered. But V22, as we can see, is basically wrapped up and are making solid progress on now V23 and 24. So we can move to the next slide here. And this is going to be a very large list with a lot of PRs. These were all of the PRs merged into developed since the last time I showed one of these slides. I think the time that we released V22, I did not show the slide. I didn't have time to get it updated. So I think this represents maybe 4 weeks, maybe 6, somewhere in that range. But yeah, definitely a lot of PRs got merged in since I last showed this. So I think that's a wrap for core. V22 activated. V22.1 is strongly in development and should get a release candidate in the near future. And we can move on to mobile.
Great, thanks. All right, so yeah, same story. This is the past about 4 weeks or so with some of the stuff that's currently in progress. On Android, I mean, it's all Dash Pay. As we know, we're not doing anything on Dash Wallet anymore. Had a few different crash fixes. We had a little bit of firefighting relating to either CoinJoin or just new issues that we weren't aware of. So that kind of detracted us from some of our other feature development. The blockchain service ANRs, it's kind of similar to a crash, but we put that on pause and just recently discovered some ways to address some of these things. So we brought that back into our sprint. One of the things relating, I mean, it's not just CoinJoin, but DashPay in general, the way that we display our transactions, because we have a lot more transactions, particularly when people are mixing very frequently. So that's been something that we've been trying to make improvements for. Also with contact support, again, as the data starts to increase with all of the new activity going on the chains, we needed to make some improvements to our contact support, how we're compressing the logs and how we're gathering the data. So that was done. We had a couple rare situations that we didn't expect to run into quite so quickly, where we needed to do some credit top-ups. One of them is very, very rare. One of them is just infrequent. We've only had it occur once. But it signaled the need to kind of get our credit top-up function working. We had something in place to at least prevent any kind of a bad UX, in the sense that you can continue using the app, and there's some other ways that top-ups can be done in some of the tools that are out there. So we want to get that into the actual app itself as planned. There was some terminology on our mixing warnings that we wanted to clarify some things on. And we had a lot of good feedback, not only from the M&O community that reviewed the app on voting, but also just in general, as we did some refinements, we found a lot of good ways to improve that UX. So those should all be coming very soon to everybody. And on Coinbase, they changed their API. So we have to make some changes to make sure that the transfer dash function still works. So that's Android. On the next slide, for iOS, work continues. It's been a challenging, I'll say, project getting Dash Pay up and running on iOS for various reasons, but we're making progress. It's slower than we want, but we are making progress still on that front. CoinJoin still kind of ran into a lot of unexpected issues there. We're at the point now where we have a pretty stable version. We're going to do one final round of regression testing. We're running into some intermittent crashes that can't always be reproduced by multiple people in many cases. So we're probably very likely, as long as this last round of kind of regression testing goes okay, going to open it up to a more open beta for people to start using, and hopefully whatever feedback we get from that hopefully will also help us resolve and make it more stable. The UI work, most of all the remaining UI work for contested usernames is done, as well as the final results for voting. That's nearing completion. But the focus right now has been on CoinJoin, so we can get that out for people to start giving us feedback on it. We had small change on the crowd node dynamic fees calculation, as well as a bug relating to a special transaction that needed to be fixed. That was a point release that went out just recently. And similar to Android, we had some improvements that we wanted to make on the contact support process to zip the logs up. Certain logs that at least maybe weren't being compressed before now are, so that it's easier to get the data that we need. So a lot of I'll call maintenance work and just final testing to get us across the finish line for a few of these things. Yeah, that's the update for mobile.
Thank you very much. And let's move on to the questions. So the first question is, I'm trying to make sense of it, from Surya Kant. And the question is, why are you going to increase the rate of Dashcoin? Tell me what else is there in the work.
I think they misunderstood.
Okay. Can you clarify what you
I don't know. this could mean, when are the doves going to increase the price of Dash? It could mean that. It could also mean like, I it doesn't matter. I don't think.
All right,
listen.
please, Surya, if you are still here in the call, can you please specify your question? So, but just to make sure we are not increasing the rate of
Yeah,
Dash coin.
we're not changing any.
Not
We're not
changing any of that.
saying anything like that.
All right. Question from TL. When non-proof SDK, is that the 2-3 months, maybe not a lawyer?
I think there was a misunderstanding. The proof SDK is the ultimate goal. The non-proof SDK already exists.
Okay. Thank you.
So
thanks for the clarification. Next question is, how is assume UTXO different from skip sync?
I don't know what skip sync is.
Me neither.
Pasta, you know?
What is skip sync?
Maybe they meant state
I
sync?
am not familiar with that term.
Say it.
I don't know.
All right. If you are here, TL, please clarify. Next question is question from mobile team / Brian. Have you heard more about Dash Spend? Do we have any info on that?
I have very little info other than they've been pretty much silent for the most part. I know that I think they've had some traveling going on, so there's been some unavailability there for getting us the support that we need. But I mean, coincidentally, just recently hear that travels are over and they're doing some replanning. So I don't have any specific updates for today other than the fact that I'm back in communication, at least as of today, with the team. As before, I mean, we've already built out the UI. We're just waiting for the service to be stood back up to make sure we can get whatever issues we had resolved. So we're just waiting. We're in a waiting phase at this point.
All right.
In the meantime, we are looking at other potential partners that we can that we've been in talks with for quite some time. Not necessarily as a replacement, either as a backup or as a combined kind of service. So that's a longer term solution, but it's something that we're at least looking at.
Thank you. Question for Brian and Quantum. Can we have an updated roadmap on the website? The community was promised to get an updated deliverable date since Evo was released. The roadmap does not have SDK included, for example.
Yeah, so couple things on this front. We did make some updates in December, and we mistakenly forgot to update the last updated date at the bottom of the page to at least get us somewhat up to par where we were at, or what has been released and whatnot. We have currently in review an update that's just getting reviewed to make sure it's got the proper scope. But to that point, it doesn't have a lot of the detail that was mentioned here regarding the SDK. So that's still something that we have to put a little work into, but I do expect we should have an update within the next week, I'd say conservatively, probably sooner, but yeah, as you know, Sam was going through, it's a process. We've got a few different stages of the delivery of the SDK, so there is still a little bit more work, especially after the proof of concept is done, where I see multiple updates being made to the roadmap over the next month or so.
Proof of concept is done.
Well, sorry, I forgot.
Yeah. All right.
But yeah. We definitely need to give our roadmap a little bit of love, indeed.
All right. That's it. Thanks everybody for joining, for the feedback and the questions. It was a long update, but it was, you know, we haven't met. I mean, we didn't have this update. We skipped one update basically, so that's why we have this longer update today. Thanks for being here. Thank you very much for your contributions and feedback, and see you in 2 weeks.